Welcome to my video about using batch files to build your code. Why would you want to use a batch file to build your code when there's perfectly good build systems out there? In fact, there are a ton of them. There's a lot of build systems out there like CMake, and they work great if somebody's made the file correctly. You download it, you run CMake, and boom, you have your project. But when something breaks, I don't know how to fix it. Especially, I set up myself, sure. Maybe I can figure it out. If I get someone else's project and I run CMake and it doesn't build, there's an error, I have no idea what to do. If you pull down a project and there's a batch file, I can figure it out. I could write my own. I could see every single thing the batch file is doing. Nothing is hidden. Nothing is secret. Everything is simple and straightforward. It's a lot more work, but I don't mind that upfront work. I don't mind the work because when something breaks, I know what's wrong. I can fix it. Also, another reason I like batch files, because it's a single text file that I can diff. I can look at a project from 2 years ago, if I had a batch file, and see exactly what it's doing. Like if my batch file breaks, here's a path that no longer exists, or something got moved, and I can just fix it. This might not work for everybody. This might not work for every situation, but it's a good tool to have. It's a good thing to know how to do, because maybe this is all you need. If this is all you need, you're going to be so happy you have a batch file instead of some crazy complicated build system. Another reason is that nothing's going to change. There aren't going to be any updates that break your batch file. If Windows changes their batch scripting language, okay. The batch file language is the same. Like it hasn't changed in a long time. It's probably not going to change. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get into it. Before we get started, if you haven't watched my other video on my development environment, feel free to do that if you want to. But we have to make sure that the Microsoft compiler is available. And here you can see cl.exe, which is the Microsoft compiler, is not recognized. And what we have to do, what you have to do, find the VCVARS 64 or the VCVARS 32.bat, depending on your operating system. Put it in quotes because there's paths and run that. And you can see the compiler is now added to the path of this specific instance. If you close this down, close the command prompt down and fire it up again, you'll have to do this again. If that sounds like a lot of work, you can go watch my previous video on my development environment and I walk you through how to set all that up so you don't have to do it every time, but just keep that in mind. We're going to start out with a simple Hello World program here in C. This is our build script. This is a great comment that describes nothing. Let's run this build script and see what happens. It shouldn't do anything, but why did it print out the comment? By default, the batch file echoes each line before it runs that line, and we don't really want to do that. We can come here. The way to do this is to say echo off. Now it won't echo all the lines. But it echoes echo off. We can fix this by putting an @ sign in front of echo so it won't print that either. Okay, it did nothing. What if you do want to say something? Then you can just say echo. This is a build script. And there we go. We've turned off stuff we don't want to spit out, and we know echo is kind of like a print line. So CL is the Microsoft compiler, then we pass in the path to the file, which is 00 main.c. Let's go ahead and run the batch file now. Now it's spitting out the compiler version and a copyright notice. You can come here, link in the description, to look at all the different options, and I know what we're looking for. The one that we want is right here. Suppress display of sign-on banner. That's what we want. You can have a slash here, or you can have a dash. Either one, doesn't matter. I like the dash. Okay, now that we added no logo, let's see what happens. And it looks like it built. We can see there actually is a main.exe. Main.exe. Really hello world. You might think, well, if I only want to compile a single file, this is great, but that's not how a real project works. Don't worry, we're going to expand on this and turn it into a complete script that does pretty much everything you're going to want. All the files are just dumped into the root folder. You can imagine this is going to get messy really fast, so maybe we should fix that. What I would like to do is to make a folder called bin and put all the intermediate files in that folder so I don't have to see them, so they don't clutter everything up. How can we do that? So the first thing you might try, you can say make dir bin and cd into bin. What could go wrong? So let's run this and see what happens. Oh, fatal error. We cannot open the source file source/00 main. So it can't find the file. Let's run it again. Up. Now it can't find the batch file. This is dumb. If you'll notice, we're actually in the bin folder right now because we cd'd into it, right? We made it, we went into it, and now we're still in it. When the script runs, it can't find this stuff, and then we're still in it. So let's go back out of the bin file and run the batch file again. Ugh. Now we're getting another error. Hey, the directory already exists and it still can't find the file. All right, let's fix the directory first. We can say if not exist, bin, make dir bin, and see, boom. Okay, well, we didn't get the error. The next issue is it can't find the source file. Because we're actually in the bin directory, we have to look at directory above us and then the file. We're still in the bin folder, so we'll back out and we'll run it again. And it worked. Let's see. Indeed, it did put the stuff in the bin file. Now the other problem is we're in the bin folder. We want to not be in the bin folder. How do we do that? It turns out this is a common problem. So instead of doing a change directory to the bin folder, we push directory bin. And now we can pop the directory when we're done. All right, if the bin folder doesn't exist, make it, then go into it, run this command, then jump out of it. So let's see if that works. All right, so we've cleaned up the directory, and now we have a bin folder, and everything should go into the bin. Let's delete the bin folder and run the batch again. Good enough. So we deleted the folder, we ran it again, it put the folder back, and it put all the files in the bin folder. Let's verify that. And indeed, main.exe and object are there. Push directory and pop directory are very useful. This is a pretty good tool to have in your batch file scripting. Thank you for joining me. And stay tuned for the next video where we talk about how to compile other source files and add include directories. So until next time, happy coding and stay curious.